these are your struggles. And because of that, you don't need to do work. You don't need to do school, things like that. That was not my parents' options.
Yeah.
The circumstances suck. Yes, you aren't naturally, okay, but that doesn't mean you get to quit. That doesn't mean you get to stop, right? You have to find another way to be successful. So we will look at alternative options. So my parents allowed me to test out and go to college, not go to high school anymore, right? And it's one of those things, though, where they made me feel like the problem wasn't a problem. It was who I was. That was okay. And always saying, look, though, at all these things you're good at. And in fact, it's opposite. You're gifted because you see the world differently. You're incredibly good at these other things. And so they stressed those positives, understand the negatives. And two, they didn't force me to try to be good at things like, I was never going to do good, obviously, at spelling. Yeah. That's not something I was going to pass, and that wasn't a prerequisite for me to be successful. They didn't put that pressure on me. They said, you have to work twice as hard. That's okay. You're going to work twice as hard. You're going to find another avenue, and you're going to get out. So understanding, encouraging without creating a victim.
Yeah.
And saying that just because it's hard doesn't mean you don't get to do it. That is a really hard, fine line, I think, for parents to walk. And I mean that as a parent, because the sympathy and the understanding and their frustration with the school system, and now as a parent, I can't even imagine. Yeah. I can't even imagine how mad they must have been and wanting to just stick it to it and say, don't worry about them and leave, but then having to come back and tell me, you have to work within this circumstance. And that's the fine line you got to walk as a parent.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of that famous, I'm going to butcher the quote, but people talk about if they, if all the animals were judged on their ability to fly, like the bear would be, made fun of and said, you're inadequate, you're not good enough. Yes. That's because the bear is not meant to fly, right? And different kids are good at different things. And we oftentimes will just try to put everybody in a box and say, you need to be good at this one thing. So trying to find that balance is
it's
tough.
Weird in a school system where you say, okay, you have 5 grades on 5 different subjects. 2 of them you failed, but the other ones you not only excelled, you were perfect in.
Yeah.
But now your overall grade's a D.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like you just took all your wins and said if you fail at anything, you're failing overall. Yeah. That is not how life works. That, in fact, it's completely the opposite of how life works, but we're trained like that's true. I have to succeed at everything or else I fail at everything. That's so counterintuitive, but we're taught that from an early age. And obviously that dislike that system a lot because it teaches, I think, very, very incorrect principles at a very young age that shapes how you interact with the world and how you think you need to work within it. And success is not predicated on you excelling at everything, and it never will be.
Yeah. So do you recommend today, I know we're skipping way ahead on your story and we'll backtrack in a minute, but homeschooling, private schooling, what's kind of your view on as a father of 4 kids? What are age ranges again?
Yeah. So I have a 15-year-old just started driving. It's crazy. Then I have a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Okay,
just
so the whole range there.
So, yes.
Yeah. So what's your thought on schooling? What are you guys doing?
So we don't have our children in public school. My wife actually started and created a school, and cool. It was predicated on a lot of these philosophies, including financial education, entrepreneurship, but also treating the kids as individuals, right? They're running different races, and you're supposed to help the kid win the race. You're not supposed to say, this kid won a swimming contest, right? And you were running on the track, and because he won and you didn't beat him, you failed. Like it's not how the race works, right? They're all running different races. We just want each one of them to be successful. Yeah. Not that one wins. That's not what school's about. So it was this idea of it's about the children. We're customizing education so they can be successful. And I'm big on those options. One of the problems we have, though, is that's expensive. So homeschooling is the next route, which is exploding in the United States.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's just growing so rapidly, and technology has put us in a position to where we can do that. So, after COVID, everybody learned we had to figure out how to do this with the kids at home. So if that's going to be the case, why don't we continue doing this? Or now we have options that were created, infrastructure to deliver education to kids at home that didn't exist before. And I think those trends will continue. And I think that they're good because with everyone, but especially children, we need options.
Yeah.
More options, the better, to customize making sure that they are successful.
Which is an interesting way to look at education as capitalism, right? So the
Yes.
reason that business, the more options you have, the more it forces each business to be good to survive, and therefore that's why America has great business, and a lot of communist places don't. So it's funny, in America, we've always treated education as more of a communist sort of a situation.
And it shows on outcome.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
it's very clearly outcome. And you can look at that because people are like, well, it's not fair because kids that go to private schools have more opportunities and better outcomes. And you're like, okay, well, do you not see the problem there? The kids that can go to private schools, the reason they can is because they have options. Yeah. And so when they have options, guess what? They don't choose public school. Yeah. So the goal should not be to take down other people that are successful in that realm to a one that they won't be. It's to give the other kids options, just like other people do. And the school system, in the United States, I think the vast majority believe it's broken because it is. Our results show it. It's fundamentally constructed. I mean, the people that built school systems outbuilt prisons. Like it is not a natural way, right? And I think that people are waking up to it finally. Yeah. And I think technology plays a big role into that, which is great.
You know what I think is funny is for years, homeschoolers have been called like the weird kids, right? What are you going to do about, I still get it because we homeschool Rosie and how are you going to socialize them? It's so important, so hard to, they're going to be weird. And sure, there are homeschool families that have been weird over the past. Yeah. I've known some. But today when I look at kids and I look at Rosie, who is homeschooled, and then I look at the kids in public school who are still walking down the street by themselves wearing a mask and then not talking and they can't communicate with adults because they're so scared and afraid. And I'm like, who's the kids who need socializing? Rosie's here at this event right now, just talking to grown-ups, walking around, plays with kids, leads kids. And I'm like, isn't it interesting how the script got flipped? And the homeschooler, almost every homeschool kid I know is well-adjusted. Like they are talkative, they're mature, they're social beyond belief. And it's so many public school kids can't seem to handle socialization anymore.
I was going over some studies on exactly this because we've been looking at creating a platform that can be given to people that homeschool their kids, my wife, to educate on these courses and things that she's done. So you can go out to the mass market. And one of the questions that I had was is that really true? And they found that it's actually the opposite. Homeschool kids are actually more apt in social settings than the public school. It's reverse from what the narrative has become or thought. And if you think about it, it makes no sense. You need 3,000 people to socialize. Yeah. That's not how socializing works. Yeah. You can't even do that. Yep. You're all of a sudden, it's the opposite. It's not intimate. Yep. You do not have good one-on-one conversations. Your socialization is herding cattle now, and where you're talking about a small group of people. So for a child to have 10 kids that they're around on average, how much more socialization do they need? Yeah. That doesn't make sense. And so I think that's another thing people have been waking up to, just like you just said. I see it. We all see it. That narrative's dying. Yeah. Because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, from a conspiracy theory side, it makes people like, I don't believe this, but it's almost interesting to think. I mean, the government seems to very much want people in public school.
Yes.
There's a question on why that is. We can get there. But the government does not seem to love homeschooling.
No, they fight it at all. Homeschooling and private schools, they fight. So our kids in public school, I pay for schooling twice. Yeah. I have to pay for the public schooling taxes. I have to pay for my kids to go there. Now, you would think that doesn't make sense because the kids aren't draining any resources. So why should I have to pay for the public school system, right? But the public school system is not paid on outcome. It's paid on heads and seats. Yes. That's why you miss 7 days and you fail. What if you're getting straight A's? That makes no sense at all. No, it has to do with if you miss more than this, we don't get money. Yeah. So we're going to force you into it, or we're going to ruin your life by failing you out of school. Yeah. And so everyone knows it, and you can see it, that the school system's incentives, whether it was conspiracy planned or just that's the nature of the beast, which I think that's largely what happened. It's the nature of the beast, like communism and everything. Starts out with this great idea, But then when you do not have ideas that are forcing change, you've created a system. The largest and strongest union in America is the teachers union. Yeah. They are so powerful. And they are there to protect their jobs and to protect the teachers. So the most powerful union in the United States is to protect teachers, not children.
Yeah.
It is not there to protect the children.
Yep.
That says a lot about our school system, if you think about it. And it's like, obviously, I love teachers, right? My wife has a school. We've seen it. They're powerful. They're important. But the teachers are hired, and we're here to serve the children, not the other way around. And there is all the incentives within the school system are not predicated on that.
Yep.
It is not based upon individual outcomes. It's based upon aggregates. So you can lose kids, and it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, right? And you don't need outcomes to get funding. You don't need those things. And in fact, parents are problems. Parents need to be kept away so we can do our job. That is something we fundamentally disagree with. You need to integrate parents into kids' lives. The idea that parents have too much time in kids' lives or have too much control or power, that's crazy to even think about, first of all, because it's not true. They're at school all the time. I mean, with my kids, even in school, I get such limited time with them. And the idea that we shouldn't be involved in their schooling, everything should go the opposite way. We should be trying to integrate parents into kids' lives more. Yeah. So it's a very interesting dynamic that's been created in the United States where the students and the parents are, the students are products and the parents are problems. And that's not a good place to be in because the only thing we should care about is the outcome of the kid.